that.
Yeah, we can definitely do that in the future.
Transportation is particularly bad about acronyms, so Ben knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We do drown in it, so.
Yeah, I came out of healthcare and it was equally awful. So, and then those acronyms mean something totally different to another community. We all think we know what we're talking about. Okay, any other notes on the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Greg. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, Brandon, how do you vote?
Approve.
Donna? Donna, are you there?
I saw her unmute, but we didn't hear what you said, Donna.
Can she put it in the chat in lieu of saying it out loud in case that? Okay.
There we go. We got it.
All right.
Thank you, Donna.
All right, and Sharon?
Approve.
All right, that's unanimous. So the October meeting date change, do we want to vote on that or just discuss it now?
I'll move into that.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Yeah. So for October, we have two things. One, based on our original 2023 plan, this would be an in-person meeting. So we have that decision to make, but we also have the whole Department of Transportation, correct? Hey, Michael.
Hey.
Has a conflict on our regular meeting day. And so we wanted to see if the committee members were able to flip to the following Wednesday, same time, which would be October 18th. And we'll decide on the date and then we can decide on whether that's in person or not. If you all are able to check calendars while we're here.
Wednesdays are probably going to be tough for me right now in person. I've started a new job and we have like our weekly like marketing meeting every Wednesday at 10.
Okay. Yep, good to know. But you could do 9 on a video.
Yeah.
On the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
You're okay with the 18th?
Yes.
18th works for me.
Yeah, I could do in person or virtual on the 18th.
Okay. Donna's good on the 18th. Michael, you good on the 18th? Awesome. Yeah. Okay, Carol is also, and so am I. So it sounds like virtual is probably easier, which I'm okay with that. Everyone else okay with virtual on the 18th? Okay, let's lock that in then. Thank you. That was quick and easy.
Is that still going to be 2 hours or just 1? Is that still going to be 2 hours or just 1?
As of right now, we'll make it 1 hour. I don't know of anything significant that we'll have to run through that day, and I'll flip the agenda a little bit and we'll go ahead with that. The one thing we do need to be planning for, and I know this has been mentioned a couple of times, is we need to re-elect officers. I had ended my term and then stayed on a year as the staffing transition and some new committee members came on. I think ideally we'd like to have a new slate of officers start in January so that we can stay consistent going forward. Obviously getting a new committee off the ground and dealing with the pandemic and all of these other things, we haven't, we're just now getting really into a regular schedule. And so if you're interested in serving and want to talk offline about that, if you have questions about what the time commitment or other details look like, or if there's someone on the committee that you're considering nominating, this would be the time to reach out to them and have a conversation to see if they're interested. And I would love to go ahead and put that on the October agenda if we feel ready, so that we're ready to go in January with a new set of officers. So the other piece that we can go ahead and cross off the agenda, I had been invited to speak with the Recreation and Parks Committee yesterday. Back in the spring and at our retreat last winter, we talked about some of these organizations and entities that we really need to build an ongoing regular interaction with. And the Parks and Recreation Committee, or Recreation and Parks Committee, is one that we have so much crossover with, but there's really interesting divisions. Like, for instance, all the greenways fall under Recreation and Parks. But obviously, people who bike and walk and have accessibility needs use those greenways to get from place to place or for recreation. So one of our thoughts was to have one of our committee members regularly participate in their committee and vice versa. In presenting that to them, what they asked for is to have me come present about our committee, and then they would have somebody come present about their committee. Anyway, long story short, that was supposed to be yesterday, and right as I was walking out the door, I got a phone call saying that their meeting had been canceled due to some last minute circumstances. So did not get to do that. The other sort of side note on that is, Greg, you and Michael and Donna may remember when this committee first formed, John Gunkel was one of our first committee members. John had applied for both the BPAC and Parks and Rec at the same time. And he had accidentally got put on both committees, but you can only serve on one. And so the city recommitted him, and he served on the Recreation and Parks Commission. That his term has just ended, and now he has applied for our committee. And so John and I have been reconnecting. He was going to attend yesterday as a guest with me. But I'm really excited about that. He was so engaged and knowledgeable, had really dug in deep in the very beginning, and I think he'll be a great person. We've asked the city to pull his application, obviously, and I'm hopeful that whenever it is that they start reviewing new committee members and make some assignments for our replacements, that he'll be one of those names. Anyway, so that's our update. I'm tentatively scheduled again in October. They do meet in person, but their schedule and operations are very different from ours, so it's a little bit touch and go, but I'll just keep you guys posted.
I was gonna say real quick, Sharon, I'm part of the creative corridors committee with the city. It's sort of a design review committee, and I had not heard that you could only serve on one city committee as a resident or citizen of Winston-Salem. Until you just mentioned that, I don't think I had heard that before or have been advised of that by the city before. So I guess technically I'm in violation of that policy, but
I don't think so, because Creative Corridors is an independent nonprofit, as I understand it. So I think this is just those mayor-appointed advisory commissions under city council.
Well, actually, Sharon, that is a city committee. that is a city appointed, mayor appointed committee. There is a corridor design review committee that was set up probably 10, 12 years ago. And that was actually something I had joined prior to coming on to the Bike and Ped committee. So
Okay.
It's been inactive. I don't want to take up too much time, but it's been inactive for the last couple of years because the Salem Parkway project has basically been completed.
Right.
And our tasks, at least for the time being, had been pretty much handled and dealt with. So there wasn't a whole lot of things on the agenda for us to do. And so we've been inactive for two plus years now. And actually the chairman of our committee actually passed away. So we've been basically sitting idle on the side waiting for some direction on what's going to happen with the committee. There's still probably going to be things in the future to deal with. But anyway, to make a long story short, I'm part of 2 city mayor appointed committees.
Yeah, and actually you reminded me, Greg. So I think in one of our recent meetings, we ran through our, it was in the last meeting. If you look at item number 7 from the minutes, where we ran through our bylaws and what's stated. And you are one of the required, the Creative Corridors Design Review Committee, Transit Authority, Transportation Advisory Committee are all required in our bylaws that we have representation from those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. I'm sorry.
Yep. I was thinking
minutes.
of the creative, there's a nonprofit entity, Creative Corridors, that did the fundraising and supported the bridges so that it wasn't, DOT money.
And Amy and I are both part of that.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
I missed that on the minutes here. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I remembered as you were talking, so.
My bad on that. I'm sorry.
That was good. Okay. So Ben, since we're talking about committee membership, let's go ahead and go into our update on our membership, and then we'll have Amy talk about the recent UDO conversations and what we've learned.
That sounds good. Yeah, so with Kim being gone now, we have 4 vacancies, 4 member vacancies, and Sharon and Carol have been great and given me some names to recommend to the mayor's office. So I've passed on several people to them that have submitted applications. So they should have ample people to draw from. It's just we're just waiting on when they're going to get those approved. So I'll probably reach out again and just see if that's going to happen soon. It seems like they've been emailing me quite a bit, asking me who has been submitted, what names have been submitted, so I get invites. Good. But it's just they just need to move on it now. So I think we're pretty well set up. Just kind of the ball's kind of in their court now. So
awesome. I think the fact that the mayor's office has been asking you questions is a good sign. They tend to submit those to city council for approval twice a year, at least from the pattern I've seen the past 3 years. And September may be that meeting where that happens. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that we get some new names dropped soon.
Yes, be great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so Amy, you guys have done a phenomenal amount of work on the UDO and recently had a conversation with Kelly that provided some new insight and maybe some helpful direction for us. I'd love to have you share that.
Sure. Yes, thank you. So for anyone who pops in later, or whatever, UDO, Unified Development Ordinances, it's kind of the codes that folks use as they're doing development work, sets the requirements of what needs to be where, how long, how tall, whatever. So yes, Carol and I provided a brief update at our July meeting. Kudos to Greg, who signed up to join us in this kind of working group effort. So thank you, Greg. We held a meeting with Kelly Garvin a few weeks back. Really great discussion. Always insightful to learn more about staff and how they work and how all the different departments intersect. And she suggested 2 more contacts for us to talk to folks in sidewalk maintenance and our CFO, the Chief Finance Office, talk more on budget side of things. So that's kind of in the works. But it was really good, insightful conversation with her. And then we held a meeting with Kirk and Amy of planning. We'd met with them about a year ago, but it was good to circle back now that we as a working group had a little more insight from this committee on the focus on sidewalks, increasing those throughout the city. And so it was good discussion there. Really kind of ended with the fact that the city is working on the Forward 2045 long range plan. And it's kind of all hands on deck to do that effort, which encompasses things like, sidewalks, greenways, other livability things. So that's already going to be incorporated. This committee's being solicited for feedback. The public's been solicited for feedback. So there's a lot of work already done there. And so it was determined that to try to do any text amendments or other UDO work would kind of run up against that. So we're kind of just going to be, I won't say infiltrating, but, providing input into that long range plan. And then our little working group, we haven't set up another meeting internally since that one with planning. But like I said, we're going to be trying to meet with the sidewalk maintenance crew and really understanding like what are the costs associated with building sidewalks, maintaining them, what's their budget, how do they choose which sidewalks they build or fix, how, just kind of, again, continuing our learning. So we'll report that back. And then similarly, meeting with the CFO and any other, folks from that department to again, glean like, how does the budget process work? How do we potentially influence additional staff to support, accessibility, walkability, equity, and those services throughout the community. So really just hoping to get those 2 meetings set up this fall and then report back to you all. There's other options, things we could be looking into, like the Old Salem pedestrian zone, a livability division within the city, a greenway coordinator position. These are all other things that have been identified in our master plans and that make a lot of sense. But just trying to understand where to put our energies and what's the right time and stuff. So continuing our learning journey and continuing the focus on sidewalks. And I think that's it. Greg or Ben, I know you were at the meeting with the planning partners. So anything else I missed?
And Kelly's on now too. Hey, Kelly.
Hello, everybody.
She snuck in.
I did.
Yeah, Amy, I think you covered it pretty well. I think, and we're kind of gonna give input on as the comprehensive plan comes along, but I think we're also gonna be kind of getting some text amendments ready for when the comprehensive plan does get done, but we're ready to jump on that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Nothing to add, Fred, thanks. That 2045 plan, I am thrilled with the visibility of that team and really enjoyed chatting with the 2 city employees at Cobblestone on Saturday. And they were also at Fiesta, and she mentioned a couple of other places. So they are all hands on deck, out in the community, having conversations. If you haven't encountered their booth, it's really great because they have they have Post-it notes for people to leave stickies on a board with kind of their wish. And I would say 3/4 of the Post-it notes there specifically mentioned safer bike routes, bikeability, walkability in some capacity. So that was really great. And they said that the conversations they had, I was there kind of at the close of market. So at the end of the day, the conversations they had, most people had mentioned that in some capacity as well. we did have a presentation from that team, and I don't remember when it was. And during that, I think we all were able to do some live interactive notes on their survey platform, but I went back and did it again, kind of from just a different perspective this week. And that was really great to go in and go back through page by page. I sent you guys an email this week and I did not include the link. I'll add that link and resend it. I apologize for that. Thank you, Amy. But they're doing a variety of meetings coming up. They have the link out. They've got a QR code on their card. They're really engaged and asking great questions. So I'm excited to see that happening. And that probably is a great segue into an update on the wayfinding and the bike walk map projects that Alta has been working on with the city.
Yeah, so I'll do the bike walk map first. So that one's getting close to wrapping up. We got 3 printing quotes for about 3,000 maps. So we're just trying to figure out if we want to do it with our in-house printing company or if we want to bid it out or take one of those quotes. So that's wrapping up pretty soon, and I think it ended up looking really good, and really appreciate all the BPMAG member input on that. Gonna be a really great map. And then the Greenway wayfinding, Alta has submitted some more detailed drawings for the manufacturing of the signs, how they're mounted and stuff like that. So I'm reviewing that, and then I'm also reviewing the placement plan for those maps. They sent me this whole document where it's every sign, what it's going to say, what direction it's going to be facing. So right now I'm just kind of really getting through that and matching it with the drawings and just taking a deep dive into that. So I'll be done reviewing that sometime in October, and then we'll move forward after that.
Ben, is there any way we can get a sneak peek on the wayfinding signage info and where things are placed?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how best to get some input from you guys. I know
like after you do your review, then share it for awareness even, you know?
Yeah, I could do that, because I know Alta in their scope, I think their input from the committee was more focused on the sign families and more of the graphic stuff. And I think they used up their 2 meetings that they kind of set aside, but I can definitely give it to you guys for more info, for sure.
Yeah, my biggest, I guess, question in wanting to see that is readability. As someone who struggles with, I have 3 different pairs of glasses, and I'm constantly like, which one sees what? But our current signage, you have to stop, get off a bike, and put your face up to stuff to read. There's too many words and too much stuff, but that's one of my biggest concerns. And then I'm just curious on the placement and where those will be. I'm really excited. I hadn't been riding a whole lot this year, but the past couple of weeks, again with the weather cooling off, I've been hitting the Salem Creek, and I went up to check out all the new additions up at the Grant Park where the quarry is. Gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love everything they've added up there. Looks so fabulous. But again, those directional signage at some of those crossings and places where it's just, if you don't know where you're going, you're kind of like, am I in the right place? Turn around. But anyway, it's really exciting to see all the work that's coming together.
Yeah, but definitely some of those areas where you can get turned around, like Salem Creek Greenway and the Strollway and Quarry Park and going to Salem Lake. Definitely. My brother was visiting last week, and he actually called me when I was at work, and he's like, "Hey, I'm at this point. How do I get here?" So
right.
It's definitely needed for sure. So
yeah. I'm gonna I think that's everything on our agenda except for some event updates. But while we're talking about signage, I don't know if you guys have been out to the trailhead at Marketplace Mall recently. The mall has put up in every third parking space, all the way around the perimeter from the entrance, from the stoplight at Peters Creek Parkway, all the way down, there are signs that say private property, no parking except for mall customers, no parking after hours, no meeting, no gathering, no this, no that. I've had several conversations. I love parking there. I live close enough. I can ride from my house, but I really love starting at Marketplace. You know, in addition to being hit over here on Broad, that's my favorite place to start. And I love the people who gather there. There are so many great groups of people who ride every day out of that parking lot, and they're so much fun. Or if you go at lunch, there's a lot of retirees who ride that trail. Anyway, I just love it. I love the energy out there and all the conversations I have. And I've also met a lot of people who come from out of town and start there. I've had conversations with people from Tennessee, from Virginia, from South Carolina, from other parts of North Carolina. So these signs concern me because it's a public trailhead access. You've got walkers, baby joggers, you've got dogs going to the dog park, you've got all these cyclists and everyone else who park there to access the trail. Long story short, again, in talking with a group of women who ride out of there the other evening, they said that one of their friends had gone into the mall after the signs went up and asked, and they said, well, it's because people sleep out there, or we suspect that there's, you know, bad stuff happening. And for me, yeah, there are occasionally somebody taking a nap in the car, but that, I guess, doesn't bother me. They're in the car taking a nap. I can see, though, from Hamrick's perspective, that it would intimidate some of their clientele. At the same time, I'll just move on from that comment. I would love for us to initiate a conversation with the mall. I understand what they're trying to accomplish, but the wording of their signage is going to make any of those numbers of people that I just mentioned think that that trailhead is closed off. And as we're trying to expand that trail to go out and meet for Scythe Tech from that location, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Their message is being delivered in a way that makes it appear that we can no longer use that parking area to access the trail. So big concern. I've noticed that it's been very empty lately. I pulled in there on, I can't remember, one weekend morning, and it was like, whoa, what is this? And I was nervous about leaving my car, but then as I had these conversations throughout the week, I think I rode out there 4 times in the past couple of weeks, other people have said, you know, we noticed it, but we ignored it, or we've had a conversation, or they don't mean us, but you can't put up a sign that only means certain people if you word it in the way that it's worded. I wish I had a picture to share. I've tried to share a phone picture on the screen before and it just goes pixely, but I'll send that out to you all. But definitely concerning.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Sharon,
Yes,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Donna.
So is there any part of that lot that is public? I know that's where the public trailhead starts, but is any of that controlled by the city?
You know, that was my first thought too, because like at Winston-Salem State, there are some designated parking spots that are for public access to the Greenway, right over the little wooden bridge where the benches are. I don't know if you know where I'm talking about. And when I went on the weekend, Donna, I thought kind of the same thing as like, oh, well, maybe it's just this little row that's accessible. But when I went back Monday, they had put signs up everywhere. They're literally every 3 parking spaces all the way around the entire perimeter. So with clear, this is private property, no, no parking except for customers. So apparently not. But that might be something to consider. Can we work with them to designate a portion of the lot, or otherwise advocate for, now that they've spent all this money on signage, which is expensive? I don't know.
Oh, Greg, you
Go
have
ahead.
No, I was just going to share a little history. Is that Greenway's been there for over 30 years. Excuse me. Came about after the mall was completed. I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s, and for the longest time, that trailhead was a site for criminal activity, and there had been a number of incidents there where cars have gotten broken in and people assaulted in the past, unfortunately. Now, I haven't heard nearly as much of that in recent years, but it could be that there's a sort of a lasting legacy there of being sort of hidden in the back and not very visible, and still being a potential site for criminal activity. And the mall may be, doing CYA on this and just kind of protecting themselves. And Hamrick's is probably leading that conversation. But if you want, I'd be happy to. I don't know what I can do, but I'd be happy to go talk to the management as well. So if there's a need or a desire to do that, I'd be happy to intervene a little bit and see what we might be able to pull out of that conversation.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Again, I get that, but I worked at Borders for 7 years, and we would walk in at 7 a.m., muggings in the front parking lot at Thruway Center. So things happen anywhere. But I think, and I get their intention, but the way their signage is worded, I don't think they realize that if you're a new parent at School of the Arts, or you're you've just moved here like Ben, or you're from out of town and you know about this great, 16-mile loop and you've come to ride, that signage states no one is allowed to park there. I talked to a couple who were walking, and they said that was the first time they'd ever been there, and they were hoping to make this their regular walking group, trying to get in shape. And they were uncertain, like, are we okay? And the city has just done such great improvements to that stretch between Washington Park and Marketplace over the past few years. Anyway, I think it would be great if we could initiate a conversation to try to mediate and help them either reword or allocate some of those spaces, or whatever it is they feel like they need to do.
There is a small percentage of people that ride the Greenway or walk the Greenway to actually shop there. So there's a benefit to them as well. It's another means of access to the mall and for shopping and using their facilities there. And I think there's a restaurant or snack place in there. So, there's a mutual benefit there. It's not just one way.
Sure.
It's to provide access to them for people that want to walk or bike to that mall. And there are people that do work there. I have seen them walk to there with their uniforms on and so forth. So,
Oh, me too. Hmm.
so there, it's a two-way street on that. So,
Yeah.
if you want, I'll be happy to do that on behalf of the committee and go knock on a door and use my threatening presence here to see what I can stiff arm them into. But I'm just kidding about that. But
yeah,
I'll be happy to initiate some sort of conversation if you would like for me to do that.
yeah, I would. I think that would be great, Greg. Thank you.
I could
Do we
have
know who
Michael-
owns
I
the?
could have Michael be my muscle to go.
All right.
Attaboy. There you go. All right.
Do we know who owns that property and owns it all?
I don't. And in fact, that was one of my first thoughts, is maybe it had changed ownership, but the woman I spoke with Monday night said no, it's the same management. They just, I guess, had a moment of frustration. I guess
for
they have an
mentioning that.
office in the mall. Sorry, Ben, what was that?
Thanks for mentioning that, Sharon. You mentioned Winston-Salem State University, and they have an agreement. Might look into how that's been done in the past and see if that could be something we could get a conversation started with them all.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know that. It's right behind the what's
The Anderson Center.
thank you. Gosh, I was
Mhm.
trying to come up with the name. But that parking lot behind the Anderson Center, there are 3 or 4 designated spots that are specifically for access to the Greenway. That was one of my COVID discoveries. Okay. Okay, in the time that we have left, we have a few reminders on activities, updates. I did want to give, if anyone was able to attend the public safety meeting last night. Did anybody get to go to that?
I was there, and Donna, we were both there.
Okay. I sent Jason a note telling him I had a conflict, but I thought we had some committee members coming. Anything we should have our eyes and ears on?
I mean, my biggest takeaway, I think there was a bit of frustration and even fear of the safety. As mentioned, comparing the mall parking lot area and throughway, random acts of violence and crime can happen anywhere. They brought up what happened on Ronalda right there near Haynes Park on Sunday.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a business owner, 77-year-old woman, was putting her stuff out on the street to open her business, and a man came in there and threatened her, or I don't know if he ended up raping her like in her store. And I mean, it's super tragic. I mean, right there near where my warehouse is. So, I mean, it certainly hit really close to home. I feel really, really safe there. And yeah, just some random guy had been out of jail for not even a month and somehow ended up in Winston. And so, they were expressing, hey, especially female business owners, like, we got to feel safe inside of our businesses and stuff. So we had, police officers there, downtown bike patrol, and some other captains of different units. The takeaways I heard were, just be aware of your surroundings. I think we all kind of get comfortable, and I mean, which is awesome. We do feel safe here in Winston, but there, for whatever reason, mental health issues, substance abuse, other reasons why people kind of, not all environments are safe. So we just got to, even the ones that we're used to. So we just got to make sure that we're always kind of looking around and being vigilant. And also too, just talking about, as a community, we need to kind of look out for each other, kind of community policing. They were stressing that, what happens is a lot of times people see folks that might be homeless or, out somewhere, and it never hurts to just, you know, not necessarily call 911, but if there's any concern, like go ahead and call, you know, the non-emergency number. But there is another agency through the fire department. Maybe that's what you're going to speak about, Amy.
Yeah, there's the BEAR team. It's like
BEAR
behavioral. Yeah, so this is a separate from the police department that comes out. These are first responders specifically trained in mental health. And so if you see someone who's not necessarily a threat looking, they're just maybe lost or, you know, seem like they're on some kind of drug or something, that's a good time to call non-emergency and request the BEAR team. Because, you know, with certain populations, the police are going to be more traumatic for some groups. So that is a new department or group task force. I can't remember their formation, but yeah, I actually called them a week or two ago for a guy in the middle of the intersection. I don't think he was going to hurt anybody, but he was obviously needing some help. So it's a great resource.
Yeah. And one other thing they stressed was, you know, not necessarily don't judge the person by what you see, but judge it's the behavior more so than the individual. So yeah, you know, that way, you know, sometimes people, you know, they might be homeless or in a situation they're out of not necessarily anything that they've created for themselves, but just maybe bad fortune. So yeah, it's like I say, just mainly look at the behavior. But they were talking about too, they had folks from the Bethesda Center and the Samaritan's Ministries, and they were saying that, you know, there's just been an influx or additional folks that are homeless. And they said even when they're at max capacity, they put a number out there of 250 to 275 folks that are sleeping outdoors every night, even when they're at max capacity. And she said a lot of those folks don't want to come to the shelters because of, you know, maybe they're having issues or substance abuse, or, you know, because you have to live by their rules for sure and act right. So that was it, you know, talking about tent cities. And I'll let Donna, you know, chime in, you know, because they had mentioned stuff about along the future greenway of the Long Branch extension. There's kind of quite a bit of little tent cities popped up. So we kind of discussed, you know, that could potentially down the road be, you know, some safety issues, people traveling once that greenway is completed. But Donna, you have anything to add with that?
Just a little bit, and that was a great summary because those are some of the things I took away as well. One of the things that was really interesting was around safety along the greenways. So one of the things that they have in the city now is fuses. I know that's an acronym for, let me pull up my notes here. Fuses it houses camera registries. So Captain Amy Golden, she is with the Real-Time Crime Center. There's a program called Get Connected Winston-Salem, and there's funding for businesses to get connected. And what they can do is they can actually register their cameras, security cameras, with the city of Winston-Salem. And what that helps the police department do is if a crime is happening right there, what happens is the police have to get there, then find out what's happening, and then try to locate the person that may have committed it. But when businesses are connected through this particular program, when they make the call, what can happen is the city of Winston-Salem can actually access the cameras immediately, so that they can tell the police who to look for versus having to go to the site and then get information to try to find. So it helps them to resolve these situations pretty quickly. And they've used this technology already. And one of the things that the captain mentioned was when we were talking about the trails and the Long Branch extension, and even those for whether it's for transportation or really for recreation, was putting up cameras and having these cameras be connected in order to create some security along the trails. So that's where I was trying to, that seemed like a connection for our group and what we're doing in terms of those, the trails, bike trails, walking trails. And I know our focus is transportation, but it also probably bleeds over into the recreation space as well.
Absolutely. I love that idea. That was, and even going back to Marketplace, that was my top of mind suggestion for them is the cost that you put into all of these huge signs, put a couple of cameras out there that are connected to, and fully live. And as a community member, I mean, wouldn't you feel safer knowing that you're parking in a place that has security camera? Thank you both for that. 9 times out of 10, homeless people are not in and of themselves a problem, but in whether homeless or not, the mental illness or violent behaviors or those kinds of things are another story. And I know that there have been a lot of increasing safety issues downtown in the Arts District and other areas over the past few years. I'm glad you guys were able to attend. That's another group that we should certainly stay connected with. And the police department public information officer is someone we want to build a relationship with, that Ben and Carol and I have talked about recently, and has come up in our committee several times on inviting them to speak and share some ideas. And maybe that bike walk map is one way to connect with them. They're great, especially the bike patrol. The years I worked in downtown, my goodness, I love those guys so much. They have their eyes and ears on everything, but to give them that map to be able to distribute and know that some of the steps we're taking, and then hear from them some of the ways that we can support their law-abiding needs and concerns, would be great.
You bring up the bike patrol, so they definitely are understaffed these days. It sounds like there's 3 officers other than the sergeants per squad. But they recently have funded and put out to have 30 auxiliary bike patrol officers for off-duty officers, and they said that the Captain Gates said that they've had all 30 positions or all 30 slots signed up for. So, and then they're right now working on getting uniforms for those officers. And so they won't be full-time bike patrol, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot more presence in the downtown area in that capacity.
That's great. They really made a difference when that patrol was fully staffed and active. They were at every event. You saw them day and night. They went in and out of the restaurants, and they were hanging out at the garage and other places that were downtown at that time, and known entities. They knew every homeless person by name. They knew every business owner by name. Such great teamwork. So I'm glad to hear that. I know that the police vacancies in general are just a huge struggle right now. So that's good. All good news.
Yeah, I think they said they were down 125 officers. So, and that, I mean, it sounds like they have the funding to hire those. They just don't have the recruitment.
Right.
Going.
Yep. Tough job to go into right now for sure. Okay. Upcoming, we have in October, Carol has sent out the information on the walk audits. I think some of you are doing the training and working with her on, I'm going to mix up these 2 events because they're not the same thing, but participating in the event with Councilwoman Scipio, and then also there's Carol's doing something, I'm mixing it all up, but Carol's doing something with Village of Clemens on their pedestrian plan. And then there is the training that some of you are participating in. Anyway, feel free to add in anything else. Pedestrian Safety Month, October. Anything else you can think of? events. Okay.
I was
Well,
gonna say the walk audit is on Saturday, October the 14th is what I have on
14th.
my calendar. It's a AARP walk audit. I'm not sure about the details of when and where. I mean, where and what time we would be doing that. I don't have any of that information, but I do have that on my calendar.
I think Councilperson Scipio is still working out the details on all of that, and it's to be announced, but as soon as we have it, we'll get that to you. Hallow Wheels, I did see that announcement. Events coming up. Brandon just posted the Bike Walk Summit, which is happening in Salisbury. Are you attending by chance?
That wasn't me.
Oh, it
That
wasn't
was,
you?
Alex.
Oh, Alex. Sorry.
Yes, I am attending.
I guess
I'll be
you
attending
probably.
too.
Oh, good. Okay. Thanks, Alex. Sorry about that, Brandon. I don't know why I had your name attached. Anything else? I know Carol has attended that summit last year, possibly the past 2 years, and always comes back really excited with all the information and relationships. So that's great.
I'm sorry, what is the date on that summit again?
This Friday and Saturday, correct, Alex?
Yes, they have an all-day workshop on Thursday. I think that was an additional cost. I think it's the actual event itself is all day Friday, and they have a couple of. They're doing like a walk audit. They're also visiting the Transportation Museum. I think they drug out some old bicycles for a special exhibit for attendees if they wanted to go to that. Yeah, a lot of integrated mobility division folks from NCDOT will be there on Friday. Excuse me. So we're a sponsor, so I guess I don't feel too bad about plugging somebody else's event. So.
Oh yeah, that's great. There's a ton of links in the chat, and what I'll do after the meeting is pull the chat and share it with everyone so that you all have these for anyone not able to see, or sometimes it's a little clunky to save them, but I'll pull all of those and send them out.
Hunter was trying to be here today, but he couldn't make it. But he wanted me to share that they're still looking for project selection committee members for the carbon mitigation and air quality improvement program and the carbon reduction program. I think Carol said she was interested, but he's going to send out more information on that to all the committee members. So if anyone else is interested, let us know.
Okay, thank you. A lot going on. Okay. Thanks.
Did anyone
for all...
go to the Creative Corridors? Was there a event this weekend? The Bridging 52 event, or is that? Did any members make it to that? I think it was held on like the 5th Street Bridge or something.
Oh, a friend who works for United Way was involved in that. I was coming back from visiting a friend in King and saw all the activity, but I didn't know what it was until I saw his notes and photos later that evening.
I attended that meeting, and they were talking about the submission of the next round of grant opportunities and sort of the background about their previous application and sort of the justification for doing another application and how they can improve it, and also just a general overview of the area that they're looking at. That'd be part of that grant application. It's a pretty extensive, pretty large grant application. I don't remember the amount, but it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for the planning grant. And Elise Barella is one of the leaders from our Creative Corridors Coalition. And then there's a couple folks from Piedmont Triad Regional Council that are actually the authors of the grant application. Creative Corridors is sort of a co-author of it, but really the Piedmont Triad Regional Council is leading that grant effort. But that's really primarily what the meeting was about, was a little bit of background, and then also what they're going to be anticipating doing going forward, and the types of things that we might want to look at in the study.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up?
I would just say, so in the wrapping up the Safe Routes to School program grant cycle, that we're looking to, they had Alta put together this pedestrian safety kind of instructional kit, and it has like a tarp area with like a road configuration and some other stuff. But we're going to get several of those created. So if there's opportunities and events down the road where we can do some pedestrian safety, just know that there'll be like some activity stuff that that'll be available. So just keep that in the back pocket. And we don't have that yet, but we will have that. And it'll probably just be kept with, actually, Ben, it's already, we do have one, and I think you put it at the store at Luli's storage unit, but I have access to that, and Ben does too. So it's there for the community to use.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I'm working to see if it's in the. We have the money to do it. Just make sure that we're approved for getting a few more of those. It seemed like there's but people thought they were going to be pretty useful. So,
Michael, do you have any photos of that? Like,
I did not take any photos. I don't know if Ben did, or I can even reach out to Alta. They might have some kind of mock-ups of what it is and stuff, and I could send that on to you or the group.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be a great thing to do at like Cobblestone or Washington Park or Marketplace Mall, one of those locations on a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very cool.
Awesome.
I was going to add one thing, if you don't mind. I think Michael and I are both part of the Cycle Recycle program. And it's part of the Love Out Loud organization that's here in Winston-Salem. Cycle Recycle warehouse that they have is on Tucker Avenue off of Country Club Road. They have so many bicycles now that they have run out of space in their warehouse there. I don't know if anyone has been over there. I was over there yesterday doing some things, and they've actually rented some space at a new storage unit, which is just right up the street at Country Club Road at Tucker Avenue. And it's called Sunbird Storage. And I think they worked out an agreement where they could actually store bikes, completed bikes or fixed up bikes in that facility, because they literally have run out of room to store all the bikes that they've been able to fix and to be able to give away into the future. So it's a small thing, but it shows the cooperation and interest by at least that one company to provide some assistance on storing bikes to be able to give those away in the near future. So I think that was really a very, very nice gesture on their part, and sort of a working relationship between Cycle Recycle and the business community. So I just wanted to mention that. I thought that was neat.
So Greg, you did say
ceremony about that the other day. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You did say rented, but I think that spots were donated access, correct?
Yeah, if I said rented, I didn't mean that, but donated, yes, correct.
Yep.
I mean, that was part of the contribution, yes. So. But it's a rental storage facility is what the deal is. It's one of those typical 2 to 3 story buildings that have got lockers in them and so forth.
Certainly.
You know, we have a lot of wonderful things in Winston-Salem in terms of assistance for people, ways that we try to impact the community. One of the things that the officers said last night in the meeting is because there's so many resources here in Winston to help people who are in transition, who might be homeless, that sometimes brings people to our communities who may be a little challenged. And so that's why that may be some of the reasons they're seeing some people coming to the area. Things are happening, but they're not from the area. That's causing some of the conflicts in our area. So I guess that goes back to us really bonding together as a community to take care of one another, with the understanding, because the city takes care of one another so well. There's a thought that maybe people are being sent to Winston, and that those that are being sent may not be those that can contribute to our community, but may be creating some challenges for our community.
What an interesting catch-22, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bless you. Any other notes before we wrap up? A great conversation today. I appreciate everyone's time and your flexibility for October. So we will shift that to the 18th, 1 hour virtual. And we'll talk to you then.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.